This is Gemara in Kesubos Daf Yomi, and we finished, the truth is, to Yud Zayin Amud Beis, in the previous year, but I'd like to just go back a drop because we sort of ran at the last few lines. Let's just go back a little bit and let's learn the wide lines of Yud Zayin Amud Beis one more time. We're in the middle of asking a question, and the question is, as you see in the first wide line, listening B'didei. Why don't we discuss a case between, again, we're trying to figure out the case of Rabbi Yeshua and the Mishnah, is Maida, the case of Pesha Asar, the case where it's not Shar Shach Levanecha, the case that we do not know anything without the guy's original admittance. So the Gemara is asking, why don't we say the case between me and you straight, not your father, and the case is with your field? And what's the case that I ate the field 2 years in front of you, and 1 year not in front of you? Again, you eat in the field for 3 years, that creates the chazaka. What's the chazaka? Within 3 years, you see me in your field. Why didn't you protest? If you didn't protest and you let me be there, it must be it's not your field, that it's my field. And after 3 years, I don't have to hold on to my shtar anymore. We assume that it's mine. So says the Gemara, but the unique chiddush is going to be that the third year that I ate it in front of you, you ran away. And ask the Gemara, why did you run away? If you ran away because of sakanas nefashais, so of course I'm not believed. Why? Because you're not able to make a macha. You're busy running from whatever. You have to worry about making a macha, protesting. So what must the case be? You ran away for monetary reasons. But says the Gemara against, then you should have protested. Why? The kaimalan machashla b'fun of have macha, and that's what we're going to pick up from on the fourth Y line, because we learned that if you allowed to make a macha, not in front of the person. Again, I am in your field. Within the 3 years, if you don't protest, you say nothing, then la halacha, we assume it's my field. You ran away. The halacha is you're able to make a protest, not in front of me. The Tanan we learned in the Mishnah. Shalosh haratz is the chazaka. There's 3 lands with regard to a chazaka. Yehuda v'Yard v'Galil. And we explain in the Mishnah. Ha Yehuda v'Chsel v'Galil v'Chsel v'Yehuda. Einoi chazaka. Until you're with him in the same Medina. And we wonder, what exactly is this Mishnah teaching me? If it's teaching me that protesting not in front of someone is a good protest, so then I feel Yehuda v'Galil nami. So what's the Mishnah saying? That it's not a protest from Yehuda to Galil, 2 different places. What do you mean? You're able to protest not in front of someone. It doesn't work. So why are you giving me a case, Yehuda and Galil, even within one city? If you're not here, you can't protest, because you have to protest in front of the person. So Omar Rav Abba bar Mamol, 2 lines to the bottom. Really, you could protest not in front of the person. Umas Nisan, and what's this Mishnah of Shalosh Haratz the Chazaka Yehuda v'Yardin Galil? What is it referring to? Bishas Chiram Shanu. It's a time of hostility, and that is the reason that the Mishnah is referring to, that you cannot travel, and at such a time, a machash lo b'fanav will not work, because you can't necessarily work does not travel. Generally, machash lo b'fanav does work. But the Mishnah is teaching us a chiddush that these 3 bases, would not work because it's Shas Chiram. Says the Gemara, Maishna Yehuda v'Galil dinakat. And why did the Brisa speak out, this Mishnah speak out specifically, Yehuda, Galil, and Ever HaYarden, as we turn over to Yelches Amid Aleph, Tistam Yehuda v'Galil kishas Chiram damu, because the Mishnah is teaching me a rule that in general Yehuda and Galil, you could assume that there's no travel, there's no word that's passed between them, because they're hostile countries between each other, and therefore we assume that word will not travel. And that's the end of that part of the Gemara. And now we continue again the exact same theme, trying to figure out what is the case that Rav Yeshua and the Mishnah's Maida. Again, Rav Yeshua's Maida in the case of Pesha Asaru Pesha Hitter. What does that mean? That means without me saying anything, you would have no clue the story. The case of Rav Yeshua and the Mishnah was what? One more time. Was I admit this field was your father's, but I say I bought it from him. So we said in the Mishnah, because if I would have said nothing, you have no clue. I was a Pesha Asar, I was the mouth that made it Asar. There's no Shar Shacha Lefanecha in the terms of Rashi. We have no clue that there's any Din Taira over here. This field's my field. I created the story. If I create the story, then I have an amanis to say that I bought it from him. Now continues the Gemara of listening, asking, why didn't the Tana say the following case? Again, why are we reverting to a case of me and your father? Say me and you straight, but not a case of a field. Go straight to a case of cash. Mana laviti mimcha, I borrowed $100 from you, uparativ lecha, and I paid you back. So says the Gemara, why are we going into a case of me and your father? Why don't we see very simply that I say I borrowed money from you and I paid you back? Shehu, Nebun, that you're believed. A good old-fashioned Beshazar. I go over to Reuven in the middle of the street. I say, Reuven, how you doing? By the way, last month I borrowed $100. But by the way, I paid you back. Wonderful. Am I believe? Of course. Because if I said nothing, no one would ever know there's a story. I created the story. I'm believed to end the story. I'm believed to say I paid him back. So why didn't the Mishnah say that's the case according to Rabbi Yehoshua? Answers the Gemara, you know why? What did the Seifa of the Mishnah want to say 4 lines down of Yud Chesam and Aleph? That Amish Eidim Shulai Mimenu, if there are Eidim that I borrowed it from you, V'uamer Parativ, and then I said I paid you back, Einoi Namon, I'm not believed. If I created the story, I'm believed. If I did not create the story, but there were Eidim that said I borrowed from you, I don't have a Pesha Asar. Now there's a Sharshacha, now there's a case in front of us, there's a dead animal. We have to know what the story is. The Eidim said I borrowed it from you. In that case, Einoi Naman. But the problem is, V'kaimalan, we learned, Hamalvas Chaveiroi Be'eidim, if I borrow money from you with witnesses, Einoi Tzarech L'baroi Be'eidim, I don't have to pay you back with witnesses. So even if Eidim will come and say, we know you borrowed, I'm still believed to say I paid you back. Fascinating. Either Eidim. But we hold you don't have to pay back with witnesses, and therefore the Mishnah would not have been able to continue in the vein of saying the case of Eidim. So the Mishnah cannot say that the case is I borrowed cash from you and I paid it back. So the Gemara now goes and suggests another case. Okay, so we exhausted all the options of fatherland, sonland, straight loan between me and the son. Now the Gemara says, okay, let's go back. We'll talk about you and your father, but let's not talk about land. Let's go straight with cash. Let's say you tell a person, I owed your father $100, I'm on it, but v'chaltiv pras, I paid back part of it, parativ chetzoi, as Rashi in the first narrow line says. What's the halacha? Shehu naman. I'm believed. Let's see Rashi. This is one of these Gemaras. You'll read it together with Rashi. It reads beautifully. Says Rashi, why don't we say parativ, the first narrow line, parativ chetzav shunaman beloi shvua. The nikuda, the detail that we're honing in on is whether I have to make an oath that this is indeed what happened. Again, the case is, I said your father lent me $100 and I paid him back $50. I do not have to swear. Why not? Explains Rashi. We did not know anything until I opened up my mouth. Dashvina Rabusa, you know what the chiddush, the novelty is, the afal gav, the moida b'mixas. This is a case of moida b'mixas. In general, when I admit to part of it, the halacha is, I have to swear. But in this case, pater. Why? Because no one brought you to court. I came on my own accord. Therefore, the halacha is going to be pasha asur, pasha hitir. It's going to work even monetarily to your father that I paid back half. Normally, moida b'mixas, you have to swear. Here you do not have to swear. Why? Because I created the case. So why didn't the Mishnah say that this is the case that I created between you and your father, and I would be neman not to swear? Says the Gemara, aliba deman. Whom are we going according to? Aliba, are we? Excuse me. I don't know what's going on here with the highlights. One momento. There we go. Who are we going according to? Let's get this going. There we go. Who are we going according to? And the Gemara is going to elaborate. Are we going according to the Rabbanon that they say, I'm returning something to you? So of course I don't have to swear. Says you have to swear. Titania, now we're going to explain at length what is this machlekes Rabbanan of Elazar ben Yaakov, which by extension is a kasha. Who is our Mishnah going like? It seemingly is like neither the Rabbanan nor Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, there are times a person has to swear on his own volition. Ketzad, what is the case? Your father lent me $100 and I owe him money. And I paid back half. Mamish our case. I owe your father money, but I paid back half. What does Elazar ben Yaakov hold? You have to swear. And this is a case, you have to swear upon your own volition. Even though you created the case, Elazar ben Yaakov says you still have to swear. I'm a Meisha Aveda. I'm returning a lost object to you. You didn't know anything. I come over to you and I say, by the way, you know your father lent me $1 million last year? The guy's like, wow, that's great. But I paid him back $500,000. Guy says, great, I just returned to you $500,000. I said I owe you $500,000, so why do I have to swear? According to Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, for some reason I have to swear. The Rabbanan say, no, it's a Meishav Aved. I'm returning something to you you didn't know about, and therefore I am pater from the Shvuah. Says the Gemara, for Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, lastly Meishav Aved pater? I don't understand. Why does Rav Elazar ben Yaakov hold you have to swear? There's a beautiful svara and logic to say you don't have to swear, because I'm returning a lost object to you. Amarav, you know what the case is? B'ta'anoi katan. It's not a case that I came on my own volition, that I was a pesha asar. There was no shar shachal lefanecha. No one knew about this case. There was someone who knew. A katan, a minor, came and said, I remember you owe Pops $1 million. Says the Gemara, 1 second. We don't swear based on the taina, based on the claim of a deaf mute, an imbecile, or a minor. So what's the difference that the minor made the claim? Says the Gemara, no, you know what the case is? My katan gadol. Ha, it's a gadol. But my garlic katan. So why are we calling him a katan? With regard to his father's matters, he's considered like a katan. And that's the novelty. Rav Elazar ben Yaakov says, really, someone comes over to me and says, you owe my father $1 million. Not a katan, a gadol. He says, you owe my father $1 million. I say, true, but I paid back half. The Chacham say, Meishav Aveda. That guy has no proof. Sure, Meishav Aveda, you return something to him. Whereas the Rav Elazar ben Yaakov says, no, you have to make a shvuah, you have to swear. And we're going to elaborate on this more in a moment. Ask the Gemara, Ihachi, Tainis Atzmai. There's not a case. What were the words of Rav Elazar ben Yaakov? We go about 10 lines. He says sometimes someone swears on his own volition. It's not your own volition. Someone else made a taina against you. Someone made a claim against you. Explains the Gemara, Tainis Acheremi. You're right. Someone else is making the claim. Answers the Gemara, you're right. It's Tainis Acherim. Someone else makes the claim, but you're admitting. Says the Gemara, that's every case in the world. If someone makes a claim and you're admitting. So what's Rav Elazar ben Yaakov saying? That sometimes you swear on your own volition. This is a regular case. Elahacha, says the Gemara, we know what the machlekes of Elazar ben Yaakov and the Rabbanan are. B'derabba kamiflagi. Such a fundamental idea, says the Gemara. This harkens us back to so many Gemaras back in Gemara Daf Bamitzia, Daf Gimel, and we have Gemaras in Gittin and Baba Kama and Shvu. So many Gemaras that discuss the idea of Maidim and Mixas. What's the reason there is a believability? It's not a believability. All boils down to Rabbah. What is Rabbah? Rabbah says, file line from the bottom, and this is going to be the fun. This is going to be the crux of the machlekes between Rav Elazar ben Yaakov and the Rabbanan. Whether they hold of Rabbah, Rav Elazar ben Yaakov is going to say you have to, end of the day, make a shvuah, and the Chachamim say no. The Amar Rabbah says Rabbah. Fundamental idea. We started off in the top of today's Amar and we said it's a case of Moidim and Mixas. It's a case that you're admitting to part of it, and generally you have to swear, but this case is unique. So says Rabbah, what is the reason someone who admits to partial? You come to me and you say you owe me $100, and I say I owe you 50. I have to make a shvuah. Why do I have to make a shvuah? Explains Rabbah, you know why? Chazaka. We have an assumption. A person would never be brazen, never have chutzpah to deny someone that lent him money. Who has the chutzpah to do such a thing? That's disgusting. He lent you money and you're busy denying it. That is impossible. And therefore what? 2 lines from the bottom. Really, I want to say I owe you nothing. You know I don't deny it. When you come over to me and you say, you owe me $100, really, I want to say I owe you nothing. However, you know what the problem is? I don't have the chutzpah. How could I do that? You lent me money and I'm going to deny it? It's impossible for me to do it. Therefore, says the Torah, make a shvuah. Make a shvuah about the part that you admit to. You admitted to 50? Great. I want to make sure that's true. Maybe you really owe the whole thing, and you really just stole. So make the shvuah on the whole thing. We're gonna do something interesting right over here. We're gonna flip over, and then we're probably gonna have to flip back to see a Rashi. Says the Gemara as we turn over to Yechesem base. Ubekule by delay. And Rabbi continues. Really, I want to admit on the whole thing. I'm a good normal Jew. Why don't I admit? I'm stalling for time. I'm stalling for time. You come over to me and you say you owe me $100. I know you lent me money. Do I have the chutzpah to tell you? I owe you nothing? No way. How could I do that? You did me a favor. That's how Rashi Baba Kama explains. So rather I say, I owe you 50. But wait, if I don't have the chutzpah, I know you owe me money. You lent me money, why don't I say I owe you the whole $100? You know why? Because I don't have the cash right now. So I'm stalling for time, the good old fashioned stall tactic. So therefore I say, I'm trying to stall till I have money. So that's why I make up this 50. Maidim mixas. So what's every Maidim mixas, explains Rabbah. And this is the point that we're honing in on before we explain. Let's just see one Rashi. Let's just see one Rashi. Back in Amar Aleph, let's look at Rashi. Really, what are we talking about? That the child is the one that made the claim. And you ask that you don't make a shvuah when a child makes a claim. That's when the child makes the claim. And that's what we learn in the Gemara Shuvas. Therefore, Rav Elazar ben Yaakov says you make a shvuah, and the Rabbanan argue they were talking about Ta'anai Gadol, and with the Mishra Aveda. And what's the machlekes in Rabbah? So what is Rabbah saying? Now we'll come back to where we're up to. That we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, I can't deny everything because you did me a favor. On the other hand, I don't have the cash. So what should I do? What do? I say, okay, I owe you 50. I say, I owe you half. So says the Torah, Yud Chesed base 3 lines down. So the Torah says to make a shvuah, you know why? So you're going to admit. We want you to admit. So therefore, the Torah says in every case of Maidim Mixas, when Reuven says to Shimon, Yomi $100, and Shimon says back, I owe you 50, what is going through the psyche, the psychological analysis of Shimon is, Shimon saying, 1 second, this guy did me a favor, I can't deny it, that's such a chutzpah. But on the other hand, I can't say, the whole thing, because I don't have $100. Okay, I'll say 50. Says the Torah, make a shvuah to say what you're saying is true. You know why? Because you hope I'll say, I'm not making a shvuah, I really owe you the whole thing. Says, that's Rabbah. So Rav Elazar ben Yaakov Savar, what does Rav Elazar ben Yaakov hold? Again, in our case, a child is coming over. And as Rashi taught us a moment ago, and in our case, the child is saying, you owe my father $1 million. Says Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, you have to make a shvuah even when you say, I owe him $500,000. Says Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, there's no difference whether it's a claim between Reuven and Shimon, or whether it's a claim between Reuven's son and Shimon. Ein noimei is a person doesn't have such a chutzpah to deny the whole thing. He's not being a Meisha Aveda. He's not doing something nice. He doesn't have the chutzpah. Therefore, he's almost forced. He's tied. He's bound. He has to admit. So therefore, we tell him make a shvuah. But what do the Rabbanan hold? And with the contrast, it'll come out beautiful. The Rabbanan Tzavri, is when you come over to me and you say you owe me $1 million, and I know that you did me a favor by lending me $1 million. To you, I don't have the chutzpah to deny it. Avol bibinoi, in the psychological analysis, when a kid comes over to Reuven, or let's keep the case the same. Reuven's son goes over to Shimon and says, Shimon, you owe my father $1 million. Shimon can look that kid straight in the eye and say, I don't owe him anything. You know why? Because since you, the son, didn't do me a favor, we have no relationship, I don't have a problem denying. There's no chutzpah for me to deny. When your father were to come to me, I wouldn't be able to deny. So if your father came to me, what would I have to? I'd be forced to admit. Therefore, the Torah says make a shvuah. But say the Rabbanan, when the kid comes over, really, I can have the chutzpah to deny the whole thing. So why didn't I? Why did I tell this kid I owe him $500,000? I'm returning something lost. I'm being a good guy. Because I'm doing that, therefore I'm believed, and I do not have to make a shvuah. That is the machlekes between Rav Elazar ben Yaakov and the Rabbanan, where they hold to this concept of Rabbah or not. Says the Gemara, Yud Chesed Beis. Now we continue, once we're talking about Pesha Asar or Pesha Hitir, we continue with a similar idea. Says the Mishnah, Ha'idim sha'amru ksav yodenu huzah. There are witnesses that said that these are our signatures. They come to certify a document, and they say, which there are multiple ways to certify a document. You could sign something and then they compare the signatures, or you could give edus about your signatures, or the court on their own could find a different signature of yours, a different shtar, and compare them. So in the case that edim come and say, this is our handwriting, avol, it's our handwriting, we signed the shtar. But I'll just let you know, anusam ayinu, we were coerced to sign the shtar. Or ketanu ayinu, we were children when we signed the shtar. Psuli edus ayinu, we were apostle when they signed the shtar. Hare elu na'amanim, the halacha is, they are believed. They're believed to say, it is our signature, but it's not kosher. Pesha asar, pesha hitir. The same thing we had the whole day today. I told you the whole story. Without me, you'd have no clue if this is my signature. I told you it's mine. I have the believability to say, but it's not a kosher signature. But the Mishnah continues, let's say there are different witnesses that said it's your handwriting. Let's say there's another star that proves it's your signature. Then you're not believed to say that you were forced, that you were children, that you were apostle at the time, and then everything's going to be kosher. So says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Rechama, Leishanu el Sha'amru, Anisam Ayidu Machmas Manman. What is Rami Bar Chama teaching us? So we have to see the first Rashi. Rashi says it's going on the end of the Mishnah. The end of the Mishnah says that if there's other Eidim, other witnesses that testify that these are your signatures, then you're not believed to say that it's a Apostle Shtar. You're not believed to say we were forced, we were children. Why? Because without your knowledge, without you saying anything, we know it's your signature, so you lost your Pesha Asar or Pesha Hitir. So says Rami Bar Chama that is only when they said we're forced due to cash. Avo, but let's say they said if they said we were forced due to nefashos, they said we're going to kill you if you don't sign, then they're believed, even though we know that these are their signatures. Let's just play out the case. This is fascinating. Bezdin is looking to see if Reuven owes Shimon $1 million. He has a shtar, and we're trying to see, is this a kosher shtar? So Eidim come in and they testify about that shtar. I come in, I say, by the way, that's my handwriting. They say, okay, we don't really care. We had your signatures from elsewhere. I said, yeah, but guess what? I was forced with gunpoint to sign that shtar. It's complete forgery. All of a sudden, we believe you. There's no Pesha Asar. Yet Rabbi Bar Chama says you have a believability if it's because of nefashos. Amarle Rava, says Rava, Kol Kemine. What's going on over here? What's your power to say that it's a forged shtar? Or that your signatures are not kosher? The halacha is you only can give edus once in Bezdin. So you already gave edus once. What do you mean you already gave edus once? I just came in right now. You know what you gave edus? You gave edus by the fact that your signatures in Bezdin were believed. That's your edus, Rashi explains. Your edus was that they verified your signature. That's edus number 1. Now you want to come in and say edus number 2, that also those signatures were not kosher, were forced, were children, etc. You're not believed. Once you give edus, you can't give edus again. It says the Gemara, 1 second. If you're going to suggest maybe the rule of kivan shegid shavin chayzer magid is only bal peh. If I give one edus, I can't give a second edus. But bishtar, if one of the testimonies was via a witness, it was via a document that you certified this document via another document, then maybe I could come in by myself and testify. Can't be. Witnesses that signed, says if they're checked in Bezdin as if they're alive. That's the way with our halachic eyes. When we see signatures on a shtar, you know what we see? We see the people standing right here saying this is a kosher shtar. So that's a real eidos. That's like they're talking. So if I come and talk again, I am not believed. So ask the Gemara, Rabbi Bar Chama, how can you tell me that the case for the Mishnah is only when they say they're forced by money, but if they say they're forced by nefashos, they're believed, they have no believability. Says the Gemara, you're right. What was Rabbi Bar Chama talking about on the first part of the Mishnah? What was the first part of the Mishnah? The first part of the Mishnah was, I come into Bezdin, I say, this is my handwriting. You have no way of knowing without me. Pesha Asar. And then I say I was forced. Now, says the Gemara, that's what we're talking about. The first part of the Mishnah says, they are believed. And on the fact that I am, yes, believed, the whole Gemara has to flip. When am I believed? When I say, this is my signature and I was forced by gunpoint. But if I said, I was forced, someone gave me a bribery, I'm not believed. Why not? What happened to Beshazar? Says the Gemara, my time 7 lines to the bottom. Such an important rule. You're never believed to say you didn't have Eira. And over here, if you're saying you accepted a bribe, if you're saying someone paid you off, you're making yourself into Rasha, so you're not believed. If you say what? If you say someone held a gunpoint to your head, you're not a Rasha. You did what you're supposed to do. It's not one of the Gimel Averos Chamuras. You're not supposed to give up your life, so you're believed. But if they said that they bribed you with money, then you're not believed. Taner Rabbanan, 6 lines to the Baitam, Ein Namanim Lepaslai. Says the Brisa, the witnesses who verify a document are not believed to say, to parcel up the document, Divir HaMeir. Chamayim Nemanim, they are believed. Explains the Gemara. Bish, some of the Rabbanan that they're believed to say the document is possible. Kitay Mayu, like we've been saying the whole day today. Beautiful, you made it kosher, you could say it's possible. El Rameir, my time, according to Rameir, why you not believed? Says the Gemara, Bishlama, I understand Psuli Eidos. I understand when the witness says that we are unfit, that we are puzzle, that makes a lot of sense. Why? Malva Gufe make our midak daiku machtim. Because we all know there's a rule that when someone makes halva, we assume that he got kosher Eidim. So the Malva obviously checked into the fact, and the Malva obviously found out that they're kosher. So for you to come now and say that you're puzzle, you are not believed. But Ketanim Nami, and also the case of Ketanim, I understand. Kidrei Shimon Levi, Kidrei Lakish, excuse me, Shimon Lakish. The Amar Reish Lakish, as Reish Lakish explains, we'll turn over for a moment to tomorrow's Daf Yotes. Chazaka in Eidim Chaytman Al Sharim Kin Nasa Begadol. You always make sure Eidim are Gedolim. Ela Nusim My Taima. What is the reason why when the Eidim say we are forced? Why, according to Rav Meir, are you not believed? What happened to the Pesha Asar? You said it's kosher and you said you're forced. Why are you not believed? Amar Rav Chisda, you know why? Because of Rav Meir, Eidim Sha'amru Lahem Chasmu Sheker V'al Tahargu. Rav Meir holds that if witnesses said, sign, or we're going to kill you, Yahargu V'al Yachatmu Sheker. Fascinating. You should let yourself be killed, and you should not sign falsely. That's where Meir holds. I want to pick up from this. I know there's a bit of a Pandora's box over here. We'll pick up over here from Mir Tashem tomorrow.